Jennifer Cooper stared at the final notice in her hands, the bold red letters blurring as tears threatened to spill. Eviction notice. 14 days to vacate premises. She placed the paper on her kitchen table next to the stack of unpaid bills and a framed photo of her 8-year-old daughter Lily playing soccer. The morning light filtered through threadbare curtains, illuminating the small apartment they'd called home for the past 3 years since David had walked out, claiming he needed to find himself, only to stop sending child support payments 6 months ago. At 34, Jennifer had never imagined being in this position. With a degree in environmental engineering, she had once had promising career prospects. But when Lily was diagnosed with severe asthma at age 4, Jennifer had scaled back to part-time consulting work to manage her daughter's frequent medical appointments. David's disappearance had been the final blow to their precarious financial situation. "Mommy, are you sad again?" Lily's voice came from the hallway, her favorite stuffed elephant clutched against her purple pajamas. Jennifer quickly wiped her eyes and forced a smile. "No, sweetie, just thinking." She paused. "How about some breakfast before school?" As she poured cereal for her daughter. Jennifer's mind raced through increasingly desperate options. Her parents had passed away years ago. Her brother lived overseas with barely enough to support his own family, and she'd already maxed out her credit cards. The $2,500 emergency fund she'd managed to save, despite everything, was all that stood between them and homelessness. Ms. Cooper, Lily's school principal, had called the previous afternoon. Lily fell asleep in class again today. Her teacher mentioned this is the 3rd time this week. "Is everything all right at home?" Jennifer had mumbled reassurances about late nights and promised to enforce an earlier bedtime, not mentioning that Lily's bedroom shared a wall with their neighbor's apartment, where arguments and blaring television continued until the early morning hours. The thin walls provided little barrier against the noise or the cigarette smoke that triggered Lily's asthma attacks. After dropping Lily at school, Jennifer sat in her decade-old Honda, scrolling through rental listings on her phone. Everything within commuting distance of Lily's school and her clients was far beyond her budget. As she was about to close the browser in frustration, an unusual advertisement caught her eye. County tax auction, 15-acre farmstead with house and outbuildings. Oak Ridge, Williams County, starting bid $2,000. Property sold as is. Others Shelka. The listing included photos of a weathered 2-story farmhouse with peeling white paint, a large red barn in apparent disrepair, and overgrown fields bordered by dense woods, according to the description. The property had been seized for unpaid taxes after sitting vacant for nearly a decade. The auction was scheduled for the following morning. Oak Ridge was a small rural community about 40 minutes from the city where Jennifer currently lived, within manageable commuting distance to Lily's school if they were careful with gas. Property that cheap would mean no mortgage. Just property taxes she could hopefully manage with her consulting income. The obvious downside was that the buildings looked like they needed significant work. Jennifer clicked through to the county assessor's website, finding more details about the property. The farmhouse was listed as approximately 1,800 square feet with 3 bedrooms. Built in 1910 but renovated in the 1970s. It had a well and septic system rather than city utilities. The property had been owned by someone named Thomas Westbrook until his death in 2013, after which it had passed to an heir who never occupied it and eventually stopped paying taxes. For the rest of the day, Jennifer could think of nothing else. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, she researched rural property ownership, renovation costs, in the Oak Ridge community. The area seemed quiet and agricultural, with clean air that might help Lily's asthma. The local school was small but had decent reviews. It was madness. Jennifer knew. Buying a rundown farm with her last dollars when she had no farming experience and limited renovation skills was the definition of a desperate gamble. And yet, the alternative, becoming homeless with Lily or moving to a dangerous neighborhood they could afford, seemed worse. By morning, her decision was made. If nothing else, they would have a roof over their heads and land that was theirs. "We're going on an adventure today," she told Lily, who bounced excitedly in the passenger seat as they drove to the county courthouse after breakfast. The auction room was surprisingly crowded, but most attendees seemed interested in commercial properties and buildable lots closer to the city. When the auctioneer announced the Westbrook farmstead, Jennifer's heart raced as she raised her bidding paddle. "We have $2,000 from bidder number 43, the auctioneer announced. "Do I hear $2,100? Jennifer held her breath, expecting competition despite the property's condition. To her surprise, no other bids materialized. "Going once, going twice." The auctioneer paused, scanning the room. "Sold to bidder 43 for $2,000. As Jennifer signed the paperwork and transferred nearly every dollar from her account, the county clerk, an older woman named Mrs. Phillips, gave her a curious look. "The Westbrook place? Huh?" she said quietly, sliding the deed across the counter. "You know there's a reason nobody bid against you?" Jennifer paused. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Phillips glanced around as if checking who might be listening. "That property's got a strange history. Thomas Westbrook was an odd man, kept to himself. Military background. They said people reported unusual activity out there for years, strange vehicles coming and going at night. Unusual equipment deliveries." She lowered her voice further. "Some say he was building some kind of doomsday shelter. After he died, there were men in dark suits asking questions around town." Jennifer felt a chill despite the warmth of the courthouse. "I'm sure it's just small-town gossip," she said with more confidence than she felt. Mrs. Phillips shrugged. "Probably so. Just thought you should know what you're getting into." She hesitated, then added, "My nephew does handyman work if you need help with repairs. His card's in the information packet." Lily was ecstatic when Jennifer explained they would be moving to a farm. "Can we have animals?" "A pony chickens?" she asked, bouncing in her seat as they drove toward their new property. "Maybe someday," Jennifer said cautiously. "First, we need to make the house livable." When they turned onto the long gravel driveway marked by a weathered wooden sign reading Westbrook, the reality of her purchase hit Jennifer full force. The farmhouse stood on a small rise, silhouetted against the afternoon sun, looking even more dilapidated than in the photos. The white clapboard siding was now a weathered gray with patches missing entirely. The wraparound porch sagged dangerously on one side. Several windows were boarded up, while others had been broken by vandals or storms and left open to the elements. "It looks like a haunted house," Lily declared, with the enthusiasm only an 8-year-old could muster for such a description. "It just needs some love," Jennifer replied, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in her stomach. "And it's ours." Around the house, approximately 15 acres of overgrown fields stretched out, bordered by dense woods on two sides. The red barn stood about 100 yards from the house, its paint faded to a dull crimson, and its roof missing shingles in several places. A smaller shed and what appeared to be a chicken coop were barely visible through the tall grass. "Oh, what have I gotten us into?" she whispered as she parked her Honda and stepped out, the spring mud sucking at her sneakers. Lily had no such reservations, immediately racing toward a gnarled apple tree in what must have once been the front yard. "Mom, can this be my climbing tree?" Despite the dilapidation, there was something undeniably charming about the place. The setting was peaceful, with rolling hills visible in the distance and the sound of a stream somewhere nearby. No traffic noise, no arguing neighbors, no cigarette smoke, just open space and clean air. Taking a deep breath, Jennifer climbed the creaking porch steps and tried the front door. It was locked, but the key the county clerk had given her turned smoothly in the ancient mechanism. The door swung open with a dramatic groan that would have been at home in any haunted house film. "Lily, stay close to me," Jennifer called. "We need to check if the floors are safe before running around." Inside, the air was stale and heavy with dust. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like macabre decorations, and the wooden floorboards protested beneath their feet, surprisingly. Some furniture remained: a moth-eaten sofa in what must have been the living room, a dining table with 4 mismatched chairs, and various other abandoned pieces throughout the house. The first floor contained a large living room with a stone fireplace, a formal dining room, a kitchen with ancient appliances, and a small study. The kitchen was in dire shape, with cabinets hanging off their hinges and a sink so rusted it looked dangerous to touch. The study was the most intact room, with built-in bookshelves covering one wall, though they stood empty aside from a few moldering paperbacks. Jennifer shined her phone's flashlight up the narrow staircase that led to the second floor. The steps didn't look entirely stable, but her curiosity outweighed caution. "Wait here. Lily, I need to check if it's safe upstairs." Carefully testing each step, she made her way to the second floor to find 3 bedrooms and a bathroom with a clawfoot tub that might once have been luxurious but was now stained with rust and grime. The largest bedroom contained a metal bed frame with no mattress and a solid oak dresser. The other rooms were empty except for a child-sized rocking chair in one that sent an involuntary shiver down Jennifer's spine. "Definitely need to get the electricity turned on," she muttered to herself, trying to break the eerie silence. Her voice sounded strange in the empty house, as if the walls were absorbing the sound. Coming back downstairs, she found Lily peering through a door she hadn't noticed earlier, half hidden behind the kitchen. "Mom, there's another room down here," Lily called excitedly. Jennifer approached cautiously, shining her light into what appeared to be a root cellar or storage room. Rough stone steps led down to a dirt floor. Wooden shelves lined the walls, still holding dusty canning jars with unidentifiable contents. "Stay up here. Lily, I'll check it out quickly." The cellar was cool and surprisingly dry for an old farmhouse. As Jennifer played her flashlight around the space, she noticed something odd. A section of the back wall didn't quite match the rest of the stonework. Moving closer, she could see faint seams in the wall, as if part of it might be a door disguised as part of the stone wall. Jennifer's heart raced as she ran her fingers along the seam. This wasn't typical for old farmhouses. Pressing experimentally, she felt a section of stone give slightly under her touch. With a grinding sound that made her jump back, a portion of the wall swung inward a few inches, just enough to confirm it was indeed a concealed door. "Mom," Lily called from the top of the stairs. "Are you okay? I heard a scary noise." "I'm fine, sweetie," Jennifer replied, her mind racing. "Just some old shelves settling. Why don't you explore the living room while I finish down here?" After making sure Lily had retreated, Jennifer turned back to the partially open door. Common sense told her to leave it alone. Hidden doors in abandoned farmhouses were the stuff of horror movies. After all, but curiosity and a strange sense that this might explain why the property had been so cheap propelled her forward. Using her phone flashlight, she managed to pull the heavy door open wider. Beyond was not another cellar room as she might have expected, but the beginning of what appeared to be a concrete tunnel, sloping gently downward. The walls were lined with gray-painted cinder blocks, and a set of metal conduits ran along the ceiling. This was no amateur construction, it looked professional. Even military-grade. Jennifer took a tentative step into the tunnel, her flashlight beam revealing that it extended at least 30 feet before making a turn. The air was surprisingly fresh, suggesting some kind of ventilation system. This was well beyond a typical storm shelter or root cellar. This was something else entirely. Remembering Lily upstairs, Jennifer reluctantly backed out of the tunnel and carefully closed the hidden door. Her mind was buzzing with questions. What had Thomas Westbrook been building beneath his farm? Was this the doomsday shelter Mrs. Phillips had mentioned? And more importantly, was it dangerous? Jennifer spent the remainder of the daylight hours making a list of immediate repairs needed to make the house habitable. The electricity was disconnected, the plumbing questionable, and several windows needed replacement. But the bones of the house seemed solid, and the roof, while needing repairs, wasn't catastrophically damaged. By sunset, she had cleared enough debris from the study to create a camping space for their first night. She hung sheets over the broken windows to keep out the draft and arranged their sleeping bags on the floor. "It's like an indoor camping trip," Lily declared, her earlier enthusiasm undimmed by the house's condition. As darkness fell, the farm came alive with unfamiliar sounds, the creaking of timbers, the hooting of owls in the nearby woods, and the whisper of wind through broken windows. Lily fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the excitement of the day. But Jennifer lay awake, her mind returning repeatedly to the hidden tunnel beneath the house. What lay beyond that turn in the passageway? Had she inadvertently purchased not just a rundown farm, but something far more complicated, and if Thomas Westbrook had indeed been military, as Mrs. Phillips suggested, was the installation down there something official? When morning light finally filtered through the sheet-covered windows, Jennifer had made up her mind. Before doing anything else, she needed to know what was beneath her new property. She couldn't make plans for their future here without understanding what that hidden door might mean for their safety. After a breakfast of granola bars and bottled water, Jennifer set up Lily with her tablet and some books in the living room, where patches of sunlight made the space less gloomy. "I need to check something in the cellar." "Lily, stay right here." "Okay, don't go upstairs or outside without me." "Okay, Mom," Lily agreed absently. Already absorbed in her game, Jennifer descended into the cellar again, this time carrying a better flashlight she'd retrieved from her car's emergency kit. The hidden door looked like part of the stone wall when closed, with only the faintest outline visible if you knew to look for it. She pressed the spot she discovered yesterday, and, once again, the door swung inward with a low grinding sound. With a deep breath, Jennifer stepped into the tunnel, her flashlight illuminating the concrete passage ahead. The floor was smooth, the walls solid and professionally constructed. She moved forward cautiously, noting electrical conduits and what appeared to be air circulation pipes running along the ceiling. After about 30 feet, the tunnel made a right-angle turn, rounding the corner. Jennifer stopped in her tracks, mouth falling open in astonishment. The tunnel opened into a large underground room, easily 40 feet square, with a ceiling at least 10 feet high. Unlike the rough concrete of the tunnel, this space was finished with smooth walls painted institutional green. Fluorescent lighting fixtures hung from the ceiling. Though they were currently dark, the room contained metal shelving units, desks with what looked like old computer equipment, and filing cabinets. Along one wall stood what appeared to be communications equipment, large radio transmitters and receivers with dials and switches. This was no private bunker. The layout, the equipment, the construction, it all screamed military installation. Jennifer moved deeper into the room, playing her flashlight over the government-issue furnishings. Everything was coated with a layer of dust, suggesting the facility had been abandoned for years, but it didn't look ransacked or hurriedly evacuated. Rather, it seemed as if the operators had simply powered down and walked away, leaving everything in place. A large metal desk dominated one corner of the room. Jennifer approached it, noting a faded nameplate, Keoel T. Westbrook, USF. So Thomas Westbrook hadn't just been ex-military, he'd been an Air Force colonel, and apparently, he'd operated some kind of official installation beneath his seemingly ordinary farm. The desk drawers were locked, but a metal cabinet nearby stood partially open. Inside, Jennifer found stacks of folders with faded labels. She pulled one out at random and opened it to reveal documents stamped with various security classifications. The top sheet was headed Hawthorne Monitoring Station Quarterly Report. The technical language was beyond her, but phrases like aerial anomaly detection and unidentified intrusion tracking jumped out. Was this some kind of early warning system, a Cold War monitoring station, continuing her exploration? Jennifer discovered a heavy door on the far wall, unlike the hidden entrance to the tunnel. This was clearly a security door with a keypad lock. Without power, however, the electronic lock was inactive, and the door stood slightly ajar. Beyond this door lay another surprise, a living quarters complete with bunks, a small kitchenette, and bathroom facilities. Clearly, this installation had been designed for personnel to remain underground for extended periods if necessary. As Jennifer examined the living area, her foot knocked against something that skittered across the floor. Directing her flashlight toward the sound, she discovered a key ring with several keys and what looked like an electronic fob. Just as she bent to retrieve it, a distant sound froze her in place. Car engines. More than one. Coming down her driveway. Jennifer's heart raced. It was barely 7:00 a.m. Who would be visiting the abandoned Westbrook farm at this hour, remembering Mrs. Phillips's mention of men in dark suits asking questions? She felt a wave of apprehension. Quickly pocketing the keys, Jennifer hurried back through the facility, down the tunnel, and up the cellar stairs. She closed the hidden door carefully behind her, making sure it settled back into its disguised position. "Lily," she called, trying to keep panic from her voice as she emerged from the cellar. "Someone's here!" Through the front windows, she could see three unmarked black SUVs pulling up in front of the house. As they parked, several men in what appeared to be military fatigues emerged, along with two individuals in plain clothes. "Mommy, why are those soldiers at our house?" Lily asked, eyes wide as she peered through the window. "I don't know, sweetie," Jennifer replied, her mind racing. "But I want you to go to the kitchen and stay there while I talk to them." "Okay." Once Lily had reluctantly retreated, Jennifer smoothed her hair, took a deep breath, and went to the front door. Before she could reach it, a firm knock sounded, opening the door. She found herself face to face with a tall man in his 40s wearing a tactical uniform with no identifiable insignia. Behind him stood several similarly dressed men, all with the alert, watchful posture of trained military personnel. "Ms. Jennifer Cooper?" the man asked, his voice authoritative. "Yes," Jennifer replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm Major Richard Coleman, United States Air Force Special Investigations Division. We need to speak with you regarding this property." Jennifer's blood ran cold. How had the military found her so quickly? She hadn't told anyone about the underground facility. She'd only discovered it herself hours ago. "May I see some identification?" "Please," she asked, buying time to collect her thoughts. Major Coleman produced a military ID card, which Jennifer examined carefully. It appeared genuine, though she had limited experience with military identification. "What is this regarding?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's a matter of national security," Major Coleman replied. "May we come in?" Jennifer hesitated. She had no legal grounds to refuse, and antagonizing military officials seemed unwise. But she also felt protective of her new home and concerned about Lily. "My daughter is inside," she said. "I'd appreciate if we could speak privately first." Major Coleman nodded to one of his colleagues, who returned to the lead vehicle. The others maintained their positions, scanning the property with practiced eyes. "Ms. Cooper," Coleman began, "our records indicate you purchased this property yesterday at a county tax auction. Is that correct?" "Yes," Jennifer confirmed. "It was formally transferred to me yesterday afternoon." "Were you aware of the property's history when you made this purchase?" Jennifer considered her answer carefully. The county clerk mentioned the previous owner was possibly military and somewhat reclusive. "That's all I know." Coleman studied her face, seeming to assess her truthfulness. The previous owner, Colonel Thomas Westbrook, was an Air Force officer assigned to a specialized monitoring program. This property contains a decommissioned military installation that was never fully cleared according to protocol. Jennifer feigned surprise, though her racing heart made it difficult to appear calm. "A military installation? Here, I had no idea." "Ms. Cooper, I'll be direct," Coleman continued. "Our sensors detected an access event at this location early this morning. The hidden entrance to the underground facility was open for the first time in nearly a decade. Given that you just took possession of the property yesterday, I assume it was you who found and entered the installation?" The revelation that they had sensors monitoring the hidden door stunned Jennifer. She considered denying it for a moment, but the evidence was clearly against her. "Yes," she admitted. "I found a hidden door in the cellar this morning and investigated. I was trying to understand what I'd purchased." Coleman's expression remained neutral. "Did you remove anything from the facility?" Jennifer thought of the keys in her pocket but decided against mentioning them. "No, I just looked around briefly. It was dark, and I didn't want to leave my daughter alone for long." One of the plainclothed individuals, a woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Margaret Dawson, Department of Defense Science Division. What exactly did you see in the facility?" "Ms. Cooper, an office area with old equipment, filing cabinets, some kind of communications gear. There was another room with bunks and a small kitchen. Nothing that seemed particularly dangerous or active," Jennifer replied, trying to downplay her discoveries. Major Coleman and Dr. Dawson exchanged glances. "The Hawthorne facility was part of a classified aerial phenomenon monitoring network established in the 1980s, Dr. Dawson explained. While officially decommissioned in 2013 following Colonel Westbrook's death, certain aspects of the technology and data collected there remain sensitive. Jennifer's curiosity overcame her caution. Aerial phenomenon, you mean like UFOs? The terminology we prefer is unexplained aerial observations, Dr. Dawson corrected. Colonel Westbrook was stationed here to monitor and document unusual atmospheric and aerial events that might have significance for national security. Before Jennifer could digest this information, Lily appeared in the doorway behind her. "Mom, I'm hungry," she announced, then froze as she noticed the uniformed personnel. Her eyes widened. "Are you real soldiers?" Major Coleman's stern expression softened slightly at the sight of the child. "Yes, we are. And you must be Lily." Jennifer tensed instinctively, moving to shield her daughter. "How do you know my daughter's name?" "Standard background check when unauthorized access occurs at a military site," Coleman explained. "We had to verify who had taken possession of the property." "Mom found a secret door in the basement," Lily said excitedly, seemingly unperturbed by the military presence. "It was super spooky." Dr. Dawson raised an eyebrow. "Children are remarkably perceptive. Aren't they, Miss Cooper? We need to secure and remove certain materials from the facility. Your cooperation would be appreciated." Jennifer considered her options. These people clearly knew far more about the underground installation than she did, and they had the authority to insist on access regardless of her wishes. "Of course," she said finally, "but I'd like to understand what's happening on my property." Coleman nodded. "That's reasonable. Dr. Dawson will provide an explanation while my team performs the necessary retrieval operation." At his signal, 4 of the uniformed personnel grabbed equipment from the SUVs and headed toward the house. Jennifer led them to the cellar entrance, showing them the hidden door mechanism. They disappeared into the tunnel with their gear, leaving Jennifer, Lily, Major Coleman, and Dr. Dawson in the kitchen. "Can we talk outside?" Jennifer suggested, not wanting Lily to hear potentially frightening information. "Lily, honey, can you stay here and draw a picture of our new house?" Once they were on the porch, Jennifer turned to Dr. Dawson. "So Colonel Westbrook was monitoring what exactly, and why put this facility on a remote farm?" Dr. Dawson considered her words carefully. "In the 1980s, this region experienced an unusual number of unexplained aerial phenomena. The isolation and specific geographical features made this location ideal for monitoring equipment. Colonel Westbrook, who had specialized training in advanced sensor systems, volunteered to operate the facility while maintaining cover as a reclusive farmer. And now, why is this still important decades later? The data collected here confirms certain atmospheric anomalies that remain relevant to current defense systems." Dawson replied, "Additionally, some of the technology Colonel Westbrook helped develop is still classified." Jennifer processed this information, suspecting she wasn't getting the full story. "Is it dangerous? Should I be concerned about living here with my daughter?" Major Coleman rejoined the conversation. "The facility itself isn't dangerous. It's essentially a sophisticated monitoring station. However, its existence is still classified, which is why we responded immediately when the sensors detected access." "How did you know so quickly?" Jennifer asked. "Those sensors must be running on some power source, but the house doesn't even have electricity." "The monitoring system operates on an independent power supply with satellite communication capability," Dr. Dawson explained. "It was designed to function autonomously for decades if necessary." A thought occurred to Jennifer. "If this is classified, am I even allowed to know about it? Are you going to make me sign some non-disclosure agreement or something?" Coleman nodded. "Precisely. We have papers for you to sign, acknowledging you're aware of the facility, but agreeing not to discuss its existence or purpose with anyone." The absurdity of the situation suddenly struck Jennifer. 24 hours ago, she'd been facing eviction. Now she was standing on the porch of her derelict farmhouse, discussing classified military installations with Air Force personnel. "And if I don't sign, the property would likely be reclaimed under national security provisions," Coleman said bluntly. You'd be compensated for your purchase price, but you'd lose the farm. Jennifer felt a surge of protectiveness, despite its condition. This place represented her desperate bid for stability, a home where Lily might breathe easier, where they could build something of their own. What about the facility itself? Will you be removing it completely? Dr. Dawson shook her head. The basic structure will remain. It would be too disruptive to remove it entirely. We're only concerned with specific equipment and documentation. Jennifer considered this. So I'd have an underground bunker on my property that could actually be useful in tornado season. Not precisely a bunker. Dr. Dawson corrected. But yes, the living quarters and basic structure would remain intact, though I should note official access would be permanently sealed. One of the uniformed men emerged from the house and approached Major Coleman. They conversed quietly before Coleman turned back to Jennifer. My team reports the main console appears to have been accessed recently. The dust patterns suggest someone was searching through the command station within the past 24 hours. Jennifer's stomach tightened. As I mentioned, I briefly explored this morning. Coleman studied her face. The disturbance patterns suggest more than casual exploration. Ms. Cooper, was anything removed from the command console? Perhaps a set of keys or access devices? For a moment, Jennifer considered producing the keys from her pocket, but something held her back. No, I didn't take anything. Maybe animals got in. Somehow the place isn't exactly secure. Coleman didn't appear convinced, but didn't press further. We'll be removing the sensitive materials today. Dr. Dawson will remain to brief you on the non-disclosure agreements and address any questions you might have. Over the next several hours, Jennifer watched as the military team carried various equipment and boxes of documents from the hidden facility to their vehicles. Lily, fascinated by the proceedings, peppered everyone with questions when allowed near the activity. Are you alien hunters? She asked one of the younger soldiers, who stifled a smile. No, just regular Air Force, he replied diplomatically. By mid-afternoon, Major Coleman declared the extraction complete. The facility has been cleared of classified material, he informed Jennifer. The entrance will remain, but we've disabled the electronic locks. You'll have access to the structure, but we recommend limiting time spent underground due to air quality concerns without the ventilation systems. As most of the team departed, Dr. Dawson remained behind with a folder of documents. Let's go through these agreements, she said, spreading papers across the dusty dining room table. The legal language was dense, but the implications were clear. Jennifer was prohibited from discussing the underground facility, its previous purpose, or Colonel Westbrook's military role with anyone. Violation would constitute a federal offense. What about Lily? Jennifer asked. She knows there's a secret door already. Children's stories about secret passages are hardly unusual, Dr. Dawson said with a slight smile. As long as you don't confirm any specifics about military involvement or classification. Her natural excitement should be harmless. As Jennifer signed the final document, a question that had been nagging at her surfaced. Dr. Dawson, the county clerk mentioned Robert Anderson was building a doomsday shelter, but you described a monitoring station for aerial phenomena, which is true, Dr. Dawson closed her folder carefully. Both. In a sense, Colonel Westbrook was tasked with monitoring certain events of interest. The facility served multiple purposes, including providing secure shelter if necessary. The locals naturally interpreted his preparations through their own perspectives. Events of interest, Jennifer repeated. You mean UFOs, don't you? That's why there's all this secrecy decades later. The phenomena recorded here defied conventional explanation, Dr. Dawson said carefully. Whether that makes them UFOs in the popular sense is a matter of interpretation. What matters is that certain entities, both foreign governments and private interests, would still find the data and technology valuable. Jennifer sensed she wouldn't get a clearer answer. Well, now I have a farm with a mysterious underground complex. Not exactly what I planned when bidding at the tax auction. Dr. Dawson surprised her with a genuine laugh. Life rarely follows our plans. Does it for what it's worth. Mr. Cooper, I think you'll find this property has unexpected advantages besides a shelter during bad weather. You mean, Colonel Westbrook chose this location carefully, Dawson replied cryptically. The property has certain unique characteristics. You might find the soil particularly fertile. For instance, before Jennifer could press for clarification, Dr. Dawson glanced at her watch. I should join the extraction team. You have my contact information if any concerns arise. She handed Jennifer a business card with just a name and phone number, no agency or department listed, as the final SUV pulled away. Jennifer and Lily stood on the porch, watching the dust settle on the long driveway. Are they coming back? Lily asked. I don't think so, sweetie, Jennifer replied absently, fingering the keys still hidden in her pocket. She hadn't mentioned them, and somehow the military team hadn't detected them during their sweep. Can we go see the secret rooms again? Jennifer hesitated. Not right now. We need to focus on making the house livable first. As evening approached, Jennifer led Lily upstairs to examine the bedrooms more thoroughly. The master bedroom had potential despite the missing mattress, and one of the smaller rooms would be perfect for Lily once cleaned and painted. Can this be my room? Lily asked excitedly, twirling in the center of the space. Can we paint it purple? Of course, Jennifer smiled, relief washing over her despite the bizarre morning. Lily was adapting to their new home with characteristic resilience. That night, camping again in the study, Jennifer found herself unable to sleep. The events of the day swirled in her mind: the underground facility, the military's swift response, Dr. Dawson's cryptic comments about the property's unique characteristics. Once Lily was deeply asleep, Jennifer retrieved the keys from her hiding place. In the beam of her flashlight, she examined them carefully: 3 standard keys of different sizes, likely for conventional locks, and the electronic fob, a small black rectangle with a single button. What had Major Coleman missed? Why hadn't they searched her personally when they suspected something was missing? Perhaps they had planted the keys for her to find. Some kind of test or trap. The questions multiplied with no answers forthcoming. Finally, exhaustion claimed her, and Jennifer fell into an uneasy sleep filled with dreams of underground passages and strange lights in the sky. Morning brought a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever secrets the farm held, her priority had to be making it livable for Lily. She created a prioritized list: restore utilities, repair the roof, replace broken windows, assess the plumbing. As she surveyed the property in daylight, Jennifer noticed details she'd missed in yesterday's chaos. The overgrown fields showed signs of having once been well-tended gardens and orchards. The barn, despite its dilapidated appearance, had a surprisingly sound structure beneath the cosmetic damage. While Lily explored the yard under her watchful eye, Jennifer called the utilities companies to arrange reconnection. The electric company could send someone that afternoon, and the phone company promised service within the week. Mom, look what I found, Lily called, racing toward her with something clutched in her small hands. It was a metal detector, old, but apparently intact. It was in the little shed, Lily explained. Can we use it? There might be treasure. Jennifer examined the device. Like everything else on the property, it seemed oddly well made despite its age. Maybe later. Sweetie, first, we need to clean up the house. They spent the morning clearing debris and sweeping years of dust from the main floor. By noon, the living room was beginning to look habitable, and Jennifer had discovered that the kitchen sink, after much sputtering, actually produced clear water. The well still works, she told Lily excitedly. We can at least have running water until the electricity is restored. As Jennifer scrubbed the kitchen counters, she found herself repeatedly glancing toward the cellar door. The keys weighed on her mind. What had Colonel Westbrook left behind that the military hadn't found? And why had Dr. Dawson seemed almost encouraging about the property's unique characteristics? The electric company technician arrived mid-afternoon, surprisingly unfazed by the property's condition. The Westbrook place, he commented as he checked the breaker box. It hasn't had power in years, but the lines are still good. Had its own generator for a long time, I heard, Jennifer said carefully, remembering her non-disclosure agreement. More than most, the technician agreed. Old Westbrook was an interesting fellow used to pay extra for priority service whenever there were outages. He tested several outlets, frowning at the readings. Wiring's older but sound. Should be safe to restore power, though you might want to get some of these outlets updated eventually. By sunset, the farmhouse had electricity again. Lights flickered on in rooms that had been dark for years, and Jennifer felt a disproportionate sense of accomplishment at this small victory. "It's less spooky now," Lily observed as they ate a simple dinner of sandwiches in the newly illuminated kitchen. After putting Lily to bed in their makeshift sleeping area, Jennifer found herself drawn once more to the cellar, with the house now quiet and the electricity restored. Her curiosity about the keys became irresistible. Descending the stone steps, she approached the hidden door, finding the pressure point easily now. The door swung open with the same grinding sound, revealing the concrete tunnel beyond. This time, Jennifer had brought a proper flashlight and a small bag containing the mysterious keys. The tunnel seemed less intimidating with better light, and Jennifer moved confidently toward the main room of the facility as she entered the large space. She was surprised to find some of the overhead lights functioning dimly, apparently connected to the house's electrical system, despite Dr. Dawson's claim about an independent power supply. The room looked different with most of the equipment removed. Empty spaces on desks and shelves showed where computers and devices had once stood. The filing cabinets hung open, emptied of their contents, but the basic infrastructure remained: desks, shelves, chairs. The communication console housing now stripped of its sensitive components. Jennifer approached Colonel Westbrook's desk, examining it more carefully than she had during her first rushed exploration. The drawers remained locked, and she tried the various keys from her set one by one. The third key slid in smoothly, and the drawer unlocked with a satisfying click. Inside was a leather-bound notebook, a set of maps with marked locations throughout the surrounding countryside, and a small device that resembled an older model smartphone, but with no manufacturer logo or standard buttons. Jennifer opened the notebook first. Unlike the official reports she'd glimpsed earlier, this appeared to be Colonel Westbrook's personal journal. The handwriting was precise but hurried, the entries spanning from 1989 to 2013. August 15, 1989, third sighting this month. Pattern recognition software confirming what I already suspected: these aren't random. They're responding to something in this region. December 3, 1992. Command refuses to acknowledge the non-military implications. They only want to know if it's Soviet or Chinese, if they would just review the spectral analysis. July 17, 2001. Permission to share findings with NASA denied again. Official stance remains atmospheric anomalies. 20 years of data says otherwise. The final entry, dated just days before Westbrook's reported death, caught Jennifer's eye. March 3, 2013. They're shutting us down. Budget cuts, they say. But I know the real reason. Too much evidence accumulated. Too difficult to maintain the official narrative. I've secured the most important findings where they won't think to look. The land will protect the truth until someone ready to understand comes along. Jennifer's hands trembled slightly as she set down the journal. Colonel Westbrook hadn't just been monitoring unusual phenomena. He'd apparently become convinced they weren't simple atmospheric events or foreign aircraft, and he'd hidden his most significant findings somewhere on the property. The maps spread across the desk showed the farm and surrounding areas, with various locations marked with symbols she didn't recognize. One location, marked with a red circle, was in the woods at the northern edge of the property line. Feeling as though she'd tumbled down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, Jennifer examined the strange device next. It had no obvious function, just a smooth black surface with a single recessed button. The electronic fob from her keyring, however, seemed designed to fit against a small panel on the back of the device. Her rational mind argued that she should stop here, return everything to the drawer, lock it, and focus on the practical challenges of renovating her new home. But another part of her, the part that had always been drawn to puzzles and mysteries, couldn't let go of Colonel Westbrook's final words. The land will protect the truth until someone ready to understand comes along. Was she that someone? And more importantly, did she want to be? Jennifer slipped Colonel Westbrook's journal into her pocket and carefully replaced the maps and strange device in the desk drawer. She needed time to process what she'd discovered and decide her next steps. The implications of Westbrook's notes were either the delusional writings of an isolated man or something far more significant. Either way, she needed to approach this methodically. Locking the drawer. She made her way back through the tunnel and secured the hidden door behind her. The cellar seemed ordinary again, just a dusty storage space beneath an old farmhouse. It was hard to believe that hours earlier, military personnel had been extracting classified equipment from a secret facility beyond that stone wall. Sleep came fitfully that night, her dreams filled with strange lights and hidden passages. She woke before dawn, her mind still churning with questions about Colonel Westbrook and his mysterious research. As sunlight gradually illuminated the farmhouse, Jennifer made a decision. She would focus on practical matters, first making the house livable, establishing their new life, ensuring Lily's security and happiness. The underground facility and its secrets could wait until they were properly settled. Over the next 2 weeks, Jennifer threw herself into renovation work, with electricity restored. She tackled the most critical repairs, patching the roof where it leaked, replacing broken windows, and ensuring the plumbing functioned reliably. She hired Mrs. Phillips's nephew, Mike, for the jobs beyond her skills, finding him competent and mercifully uncurious about the military visitors. "Folks around here learned not to ask too many questions about the Westbrook place years ago," he commented while replacing rotted boards on the porch. Old man Westbrook valued his privacy, and most neighbors respected that. Jennifer enrolled Lily in the local elementary school, relieved to find it small and welcoming. Her daughter's asthma improved dramatically in the clean country air, with no attacks since their move, a blessing that confirmed they'd made the right decision despite the property's unusual complications. Between renovation work, Jennifer took on remote environmental engineering consulting projects, grateful that her professional skills remained valuable even in their rural setting. To her surprise, the farmhouse's study, once cleared of debris and properly furnished with items from thrift stores, made an excellent home office. The underground facility remained untouched during this time, though Jennifer often found her thoughts drifting to Colonel Westbrook's journal, hidden beneath a loose floorboard in her bedroom. Each night, she read a few more entries, piecing together the story of a dedicated Air Force officer who had gradually become convinced he was documenting something extraordinary. 1 month after their arrival, with the house now basically functional if not beautiful, Jennifer decided it was time to investigate Westbrook's final clue. The most prominently marked location on his maps was within walking distance, in the wooded area at the northern boundary of her property. "Lily, how would you like to go on a nature hike today?" she suggested over breakfast. "Can I bring my treasure detector?" Lily asked excitedly, having adopted the metal detector as her favorite toy. Jennifer hesitated, then nodded. "Actually, that might be useful. We'll make it a treasure hunt." They set out mid-morning, Jennifer carrying a backpack with water, snacks, and a small shovel. Lily proudly carried the metal detector, which Jennifer had tested and found surprisingly functional despite its age. The woods were pleasant in early summer, dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy of oak and maple trees. A well-worn path suggested this route had once been frequently traveled, though now partially reclaimed by nature. According to Westbrook's map, the marked location was near a distinctive rock formation, approximately half a mile into the woods. As they walked, Jennifer kept a careful eye on their surroundings while Lily chatted excitedly about her new school friends in the garden they were planning. "Mrs. Baker says I can bring vegetables from our garden for the Harvest Festival in September," Lily explained, referring to her teacher. "Can we grow giant pumpkins? Tyler's family grew one last year that was bigger than him." "We can certainly try," Jennifer smiled, consulting Westbrook's map again. "We should be getting close to a big rock formation. Do you see anything like that?" Lily scanned the area, then pointed excitedly. "There, it looks like a turtle indeed. A large outcropping of granite rose from the forest floor ahead, its weathered surface resembling a turtle's shell. Jennifer checked the map. This matched the location marked with a red circle. Good eye, Lily. Can I use the detector now? Lily asked, already switching on the device. It emitted a low hum as she began sweeping it over the ground around the rock formation. Jennifer watched with amusement, not really expecting results, when suddenly the detector gave a sharp tone. Lily's eyes widened with excitement. Mom, I found something. Jennifer knelt beside her daughter, examining the area where the detector had signaled. Nothing was visible on the surface, but when she brushed away leaves and topsoil, she uncovered a small metal plate embedded in the ground, approximately 6 inches square. Treasure, Lily exclaimed. Maybe, Jennifer said, her pulse quickening. Let me dig around it carefully. Using the small shovel, she cleared the dirt from around the metal plate, revealing that it covered what appeared to be a concrete housing. A keyhole was visible in the center of the plate. It's locked, Lily observed with disappointment. Jennifer reached into her pocket for the keyring she'd brought, trying each key until the smallest one slid into the lock. It turned with a satisfying click, and the metal plate lifted on hidden hinges. Beneath was a waterproof container sunk into the concrete housing. Jennifer lifted it out carefully. It was heavier than expected, roughly the size of a shoebox. What's inside? Lily asked, peering over her mother's shoulder. I'm not sure, Jennifer replied honestly. But let's take it home to open it. We'll have our picnic first. Though, they spread a blanket near the turtle rock and enjoyed their sandwiches. Jennifer's mind racing with possibilities about the container's contents. Lily, having fulfilled her treasure hunting mission, was content to identify cloud shapes and collect interesting leaves. By early afternoon, they were back at the farmhouse. Jennifer settled Lily with a movie on their recently acquired secondhand television before taking the container to her bedroom for private examination. The box was made of some composite material, not quite plastic, not quite metal, with a sophisticated seal that had clearly protected the contents from moisture and time. Another keyhole secured the lid, and the same small key unlocked it. Inside, cushioned in what looked like specialized foam, were 3 items: a leather portfolio containing documents and photographs, a small metallic cylinder about the size of a pen, and a data storage device that resembled an external hard drive, but with unusual connections. Jennifer opened the portfolio first. It contained what appeared to be Colonel Westbrook's unofficial research documentation of aerial phenomena observed over nearly 25 years, complete with photographs, spectral analyses, and his own detailed notes. Unlike the clinical government reports she'd glimpsed earlier, these were filled with Westbrook's personal observations and theories. The photographs were extraordinary clear images of lights and objects that defied conventional explanation. Some showed structured craft with geometric patterns. Others captured unusual atmospheric phenomena with detailed instrumentation readings beside them. Westbrook's notes revealed a man driven by scientific curiosity rather than conspiracy thinking. He had methodically documented patterns, attempted to establish communication protocols, and developed theories based on observable data. His frustration with official dismissal of his findings was evident in later entries. These objects demonstrate technological capabilities far beyond current human achievement, he wrote in one analysis. The maneuvers recorded on 7-12-19 would generate G-forces fatal to any human pilot and impossible for materials known to our engineering science. The metallic cylinder proved to be a sophisticated optical device. When Jennifer tentatively pressed what appeared to be an activation button, it projected a 3-dimensional star map onto her bedroom wall, with certain systems highlighted and connected by lines. She quickly switched it off, unsure of its significance, but certain it was far beyond typical military equipment of the 1980s or 90s. The data storage device presented a challenge. Its connections wouldn't fit any computer Jennifer owned. She suspected it might be compatible with the strange device she'd found in Westbrook's desk, but that would require another visit to the underground facility. As she carefully repacked the items, the implications of her discovery sank in. Colonel Westbrook hadn't just been tracking Russian or Chinese aircraft or studying weather anomalies. He had compiled extensive evidence of something much more extraordinary, and apparently gone to great lengths to preserve this evidence outside official channels. The question was, what should she do with this information? She couldn't consult the military. They had clearly removed all official traces of Westbrook's work and would likely confiscate these personal records as well. The non-disclosure agreement she'd signed didn't technically cover these private materials since she discovered them after the military's departure. But she doubted Major Coleman would appreciate that distinction. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Jennifer retrieved the mysterious device from the underground facility and brought it to her bedroom. As she had suspected, the data storage unit connected to it perfectly. When she pressed the fob against the receptor panel, the device activated, its blank surface illuminating with an interface unlike any computer system she'd seen before. Files appeared, organized chronologically and by category: video recordings, data analysis, communication attempts, 25 years of diligent research by a man who had dedicated his life to understanding phenomena his own government refused to acknowledge. Jennifer stayed up most of the night, absorbed in Westbrook's work. By dawn, she had reached several conclusions. First, Colonel Westbrook had been neither delusional nor a conspiracy theorist. He had been a meticulous scientist documenting genuine phenomena. Second, the location of her farm wasn't random. It sat at the center of a decades-long pattern of unusual aerial activity. And third, this information deserved proper scientific evaluation rather than continued suppression over breakfast. She made casual conversation with Lily while inwardly contemplating her options. She needed an ally, someone with scientific credentials who could help evaluate Westbrook's research and potentially bring it to appropriate scientific channels without triggering immediate government suppression. "Mom, can we plant our garden today?" Lily asked, interrupting Jennifer's thoughts. "Ms. Baker gave me some seeds from the school greenhouse." Jennifer smiled, grounded once more by her daughter's practical concerns. "Absolutely. That's a perfect Saturday project." While Lily collected her seed packets, Jennifer recalled Dr. Dawson's cryptic comment about the soil being particularly fertile. Curious now, she took a small trowel to several locations around the property, collecting soil samples in plastic bags as they prepared the garden area, turning over the rich, dark earth. Jennifer noticed something unusual. The soil had an almost silken quality, breaking apart easily yet retaining moisture perfectly. Even in areas long neglected, there were few weeds but abundant earthworms and beneficial insects. "This is going to be the best garden ever," Lily declared, carefully planting a row of carrot seeds. "I think you might be right," Jennifer agreed, increasingly convinced that Colonel Westbrook's interest in this property extended beyond its suitability for monitoring aerial phenomena. After finishing their garden work, Jennifer made a decision. She had noticed on the local community bulletin board that Oak Ridge had a small agricultural research station affiliated with the state university. Perhaps someone there could analyze her soil samples without asking too many questions. On Monday, after dropping Lily at school, Jennifer drove to the research station with her soil samples. The facility was modest, a main building with attached greenhouses and experimental plots, but appeared well-maintained. Inside, she found a reception desk staffed by an older woman with a friendly smile. "Welcome to Oak Ridge Agricultural Research Station. How can I help you today?" "I recently purchased a property in the area and noticed the soil seems unusual," Jennifer explained. "I was hoping someone might be able to analyze samples to help me understand what I'm working with for gardening purposes. You'll want to speak with Dr. Samuel Harris, our soil specialist," the receptionist said. "Let me see if he's available." Minutes later, Jennifer was introduced to a man in his early 40s with an easy smile and soil-stained hands. "New to farming?" he asked after she explained her request. "Completely," Jennifer admitted. "I'm an environmental engineer by training, but this is my first experience with agriculture. The previous owner left the property untended for years, but the soil still seems remarkably rich." Dr. Harris examined the samples with professional interest. "Where exactly is your property?" "The old Westbrook place," Jennifer replied, watching his reaction carefully. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. Interesting. That area has some unusual geological features. I'd be happy to analyze these for you. Basic nutrient and composition testing is a free service we offer to local farmers. How long will the analysis take? Jennifer asked. For basic results, just a couple of days. If you'd like more comprehensive testing, including microbial composition and potential contaminants, that might take a week or so. The comprehensive testing would be great if that's possible, Jennifer said. I want to make sure it's safe for growing vegetables my daughter will eat. Dr. Harris nodded, logging her request into a computer. I'll need some contact information and the exact address of the property, after providing the necessary details. Jennifer hesitated, then asked, Did you know Thomas Westbrook, the previous owner? Harris's expression remained neutral, but his eyes showed interest. Not personally. He was known to be private, though he occasionally contributed interesting plant specimens to our seed bank. Was quite knowledgeable about botany for someone with no formal training in it. This was the first Jennifer had heard about Westbrook having botanical interests. What kind of plants did he contribute? Unusual varieties, particularly drought-resistant ones with high nutrient density. Some of them had unique properties we're still studying. Harris seemed to consider saying more, then glanced at his watch. I should get these samples processed. Do you have any other questions? Jennifer sensed his sudden shift in demeanor. Actually, yes. Have you ever heard of unusual atmospheric or geological phenomena around the Westbrook property? I'm trying to understand some peculiarities I've noticed. Harris went still for a moment, studying her face. Ms. Cooper, would you like to see our research greenhouse? We have some interesting projects that might give context to your questions. The abrupt change of subject confirmed Jennifer's suspicion that Dr. Harris knew more than he was saying. She nodded, and he led her through the building to a secured door, requiring both a key card and passcode. The greenhouse beyond was state-of-the-art, with automated systems controlling temperature, humidity, and light. Plants in various stages of growth filled organized sections, each meticulously labeled and monitored by sensors. Harris guided her to a secluded corner where plants with unusual geometric patterns in their leaf structures grew in isolated containers. These specimens originated from seeds Colonel Westbrook provided in 2010, he explained, dropping the pretense of not knowing Westbrook. Their DNA contains sequences unlike anything previously documented in botanical science. Jennifer stared at the plants, noting their vibrant health and unusual coloration. Are they extraterrestrial? She asked bluntly, deciding to risk exposing her knowledge. Harris's eyes widened slightly. Then he gave a slight nod. We believe the original seeds were exposed to something that fundamentally altered their structure. Westbrook claimed they were descendants of normal plants that had grown in soil from a specific location on his property, a location that had experienced multiple direct contacts with unexplained phenomena. You believe him? Jennifer stated rather than asked. The evidence is compelling, Harris replied. These plants demonstrate impossible characteristics, photosynthetic efficiency 300% higher than natural plants, ability to extract nutrients from seemingly depleted soil, resistance to all known plant diseases. We've been studying them for years under the official guise of experimental hybrid development. Jennifer thought of the garden she and Lily had just planted. Is the soil at the Westbrook farm, my farm now, safe? Absolutely, Harris assured her. It's extraordinarily beneficial. Actually, plants grown there require less water, produce higher nutritional content, and demonstrate increased resistance to pests and disease. We've never detected any harmful effects. Jennifer absorbed this information, pieces falling into place. Colonel Westbrook wasn't just monitoring aerial phenomena, he was studying their effects on the local environment. Harris nodded. From what we could gather, he believed the farm sat at an intersection point of some kind, a location where the boundary between our world and something else was particularly permeable. His military assignment was focused on the security implications, but his personal research expanded to biological effects. A thought occurred to Jennifer. Did Westbrook die naturally? The county records indicate he passed away in 2013. Harris's expression grew guarded. Officially, yes, heart attack at age 68. Unofficially, there were circumstances that raised questions. He had contacted several scientists, including my predecessor, about going public with his findings shortly before his death. The implications chilled Jennifer. And then the military cleared out his facility, a decommissioning operation. Coleman confirmed all official records were removed, but Thomas had anticipated this possibility. He distributed aspects of his research to those he trusted. The agricultural elements came to us. Other portions went elsewhere. He studied Jennifer intently. Have you found something else? Jennifer considered her response carefully. This man might be a potential ally, but she barely knew him. I'm still learning about the property, she answered non-committally. It has many unusual features. Harris seemed to understand her caution. Colonel Westbrook believed knowledge should belong to humanity, not be controlled by any government or organization. He dedicated decades to documenting phenomena most people would dismiss as impossible and to understanding their potential benefits rather than just their strategic implications. He reached into his pocket and handed Jennifer a business card with both office and personal contact information. If you discover anything you'd like a scientific perspective on, please call me. No official reports, no government involvement, just scientific collaboration. As Jennifer drove home, her mind processed this new information. The puzzle was expanding beyond anything she could have imagined when bidding on an abandoned farm at a tax auction. Colonel Westbrook had been engaged in private research far beyond his official duties, documenting not just unexplained aerial phenomena, but their environmental effects as well. And now she owned the property at the center of it all, the intersection point between worlds. As Harris had described it, the implications were simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. Arriving home, Jennifer checked on their newly planted garden, seeing it with fresh awareness. The seeds Lily had so carefully placed in the ground weren't just growing in ordinary soil, but in earth that had been fundamentally transformed by interactions with something beyond current scientific understanding. That evening, after settling Lily with homework, Jennifer returned to Westbrook's personal records, focusing now on his botanical observations. Sure enough, extensive documentation detailed unusual growth patterns, accelerated plant development, and inexplicable genetic variations in crops grown on certain portions of the property. One entry particularly caught her attention. The direct correlation between visitation events and subsequent soil enrichment can no longer be dismissed as coincidence. The visitors are either deliberately modifying the local ecosystem or their presence triggers changes through mechanisms we don't yet comprehend. Either possibility represents a paradigm shift in our understanding of both extraterrestrial intelligence and terrestrial biology. Jennifer closed the journal, gazing out her bedroom window at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. She had come to this farm seeking nothing more than affordable shelter for herself and her daughter. Instead, she had stumbled into a scientific mystery of profound implications and possibly inherited a mission from a man who had sacrificed his career and perhaps his life to preserve knowledge others wanted suppressed. For the first time since David's abandonment, Jennifer felt a sense of purpose beyond basic survival. Colonel Westbrook had recognized something special about this land and dedicated his life to understanding it. Now, through some twist of fate, the property had passed to her, an environmental engineer with the technical background to potentially continue his work. The land will protect the truth until someone ready to understand comes along, Westbrook had written in his final journal entry. Perhaps that someone was her. The weeks that followed brought an unexpected rhythm to life at the Westbrook farm. By day, Jennifer focused on practical matters, continuing renovations on the house, managing her remote consulting work, and caring for Lily. But each night after her daughter was asleep, she delved deeper into Colonel Westbrook's research, gradually piecing together the extraordinary story he had documented over decades. 3 weeks after meeting Dr. Harris, Jennifer received his soil analysis report. The results confirmed what she had begun to suspect: the soil on her property contained mineral compositions and microbial communities, unlike anything in standard agricultural databases. The report used carefully neutral language, but the implications were clear. Something had fundamentally altered the biochemistry of her land. The effects were already visible in their garden. Seeds that should have barely sprouted were 6 inches tall with vibrant leaves. Lily's carrots had pushed up feathery tops in just days rather than weeks, and the tomato seedlings were already developing small green fruit, a timeline that defied conventional growing patterns. "Mom, our plants are magic," Lily declared one morning as they inspected the rapidly developing garden. "Ms. Baker says it's impossible for carrots to grow this fast." Jennifer knelt beside her daughter, unsure how to explain. "Our farm has very special soil. Colonel Westbrook, the man who lived here before, discovered that plants grow differently here than in other places." "Because of aliens?" Lily asked matter-of-factly. Jennifer nearly lost her balance in surprise. "What makes you say that?" Lily shrugged with the casual acceptance only children can manage. "Tyler from school says the old man who lived here talked to aliens. His grandpa was a sheriff and said there were weird lights in the sky here all the time." "Is that true?" Jennifer hesitated, caught between honesty and prudence. "Colonel Westbrook studied unusual things in the sky," she said carefully. "No one knows for sure what they were." Lily considered this while gently touching a tomato plant that had doubled in size overnight. "I think the aliens made our plants grow fast, and that's okay because the tomatoes aren't scary. They're just better." Out of the mouths of babes, Jennifer thought, struck by her daughter's simple wisdom. Whatever had altered this land, whether extraterrestrial visitation as Westbrook believed, or some undiscovered geological phenomenon, the effects weren't harmful. They were, by all measures, beneficial. That realization proved transformative. Jennifer had been approaching Westbrook's research with scientific caution and a touch of fear. But what if this wasn't something to fear, but rather something to nurture and understand? What if she had been given not just unusual property, but an opportunity to advance human knowledge in meaningful ways with renewed purpose? Jennifer established a methodical approach to continuing Westbrook's work. She began documenting the growth patterns in their garden with careful measurements and photographs. She collected new soil samples from various locations on the property, mapping differences in composition, and most significantly, she began nighttime observations from the location of Westbrook's original monitoring station, the northern edge of the wooded area, where unusual phenomena had been most frequently recorded. Lily, rather than being kept in the dark, became her enthusiastic assistant. Jennifer decided that age-appropriate honesty would serve her daughter better than evasion or deception. She explained that Colonel Westbrook had studied unusual lights and objects in the sky that scientists hadn't been able to identify, and that their farm seemed to be a place where these phenomena appeared more frequently than elsewhere. "Like a lighthouse for spaceships," Lily suggested, her imagination captivated. "Maybe something like that," Jennifer agreed. "We're going to keep track of what happens here, just like Colonel Westbrook did. It's a special scientific project, but not one we should tell everyone about yet." "A secret science mission," Lily nodded solemnly. "I won't tell anyone except Mr. Bubbles." Her stuffed elephant, Jennifer knew, kept many confidences, using equipment salvaged from the underground facility and supplemented with modern digital cameras and sensors purchased with her consulting earnings. Jennifer established an observation station in the barn's loft. The elevated position provided excellent sightlines to the northern sky, where Westbrook had documented the majority of sightings. For 3 weeks, their observations yielded nothing unusual, just the normal patterns of stars, planets, and occasional aircraft. Jennifer began to wonder if the phenomena Westbrook had tracked had ceased after his death, or if perhaps they had been drawn to his presence specifically. Then, on a clear night in early July, everything changed. Jennifer and Lily had been cataloging the accelerated growth of their garden produce that day. The tomato plants were now laden with ripening fruit just 6 weeks after planting, a timeline that should have been impossible in their climate zone. The carrots, when pulled from the ground, were perfectly formed and nearly twice the size expected for their variety. "We should enter these in the county fair," Lily suggested, holding up a massive carrot. "We'd win first prize for sure." Jennifer hesitated, conscious of drawing attention to their unusual harvests. "Maybe next year, when we're more established in the community," she said, though she wondered if their produce would ever be suitable for public display, given its extraordinary characteristics. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Jennifer climbed to the observation loft as had become her routine. The night was exceptionally clear, with no moon to diminish the brilliance of the stars. She set up her digital camera with its long exposure capability and settled into the comfortable chair she'd placed by the barn's wide hay door, now converted into a perfect observation window. Around 11:30 p.m., she noticed what appeared to be unusual atmospheric disturbances in the northern sky, subtle ripples of light that didn't correspond to known celestial patterns. She activated additional recording equipment, remembering Westbrook's notes about similar disturbances often preceding more dramatic phenomena. At precisely midnight, a series of lights appeared above the tree line, not the familiar pattern of aircraft navigation lights or the steady movement of satellites, but pulsating orbs that shifted in color from blue to green to a soft violet. They moved in geometric patterns impossible for conventional aircraft, occasionally accelerating at speeds that defied physics as Jennifer understood it. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the camera settings to better capture the phenomenon. This matched exactly the descriptions in Westbrook's journals. The initial atmospheric disturbance followed by the appearance of light formations demonstrating intelligent control. For nearly 40 minutes, the lights performed what seemed like a choreographed dance in the night sky, occasionally moving directly over her property before retreating again to the north. Throughout the display, Jennifer maintained careful documentation, noting times, movement patterns, and color variations. Then something unprecedented occurred. One of the lights detached from the formation and descended toward her property, hovering approximately 50 feet above the garden area. A soft beam of bluish-white light extended downward, illuminating the growing plants for approximately 30 seconds before retracting. The orb then rejoined the formation, and within minutes, all the lights had vanished, leaving the night sky ordinary once more. Jennifer sat frozen in her observation chair, heart pounding. She had just witnessed not only the phenomena Westbrook had documented, but what appeared to be deliberate interaction with her garden. The implications were staggering. After ensuring all recording equipment had functioned properly, she climbed down from the loft on shaky legs and walked to the garden in the beam of her flashlight. The plants appeared unchanged, though she wouldn't be surprised to find accelerated growth by morning. Sleep was impossible after such an experience. Jennifer spent the remainder of the night reviewing the recording footage, confirming that she had indeed captured clear evidence of the phenomena. The quality far exceeded Westbrook's older documentation. Modern digital technology had provided crisp images of objects that defied conventional explanation. At dawn, she checked the garden again and gasped. The entire plot had transformed overnight. Plants that had been merely thriving the previous day were now in full productive mode. Tomatoes fully ripened. Squash doubled in size. Bean plants heavy with mature pods. It appeared that months of growth had occurred in a single night. When Lily awoke and saw the garden, her eyes widened in amazement. "The aliens definitely visited last night," she stated confidently. "Did you see them?" "Mom," Jennifer nodded, deciding that honesty was essential. "I saw unusual lights above our farm. Yes, and they seemed to shine a special light on our garden." "They're helping us," Lily said with the simple certainty of childhood. "Just like they helped Colonel Westbrook. That's why he stayed here for so long." The wisdom in her daughter's observations struck Jennifer forcefully. Westbrook's decades of research had focused primarily on documenting and understanding the phenomena, but his botanical studies suggested he had recognized a symbiotic relationship developing the visitors, altering the environment, and he, in turn, protecting the knowledge of their existence over breakfast. Jennifer made a significant decision. "Lily, how would you feel about inviting Dr. Harris from the agricultural station to see our garden? He's a scientist who might help us understand what's happening with our plants." "Will he tell the government men?" Lily asked shrewdly. "No, he's someone who worked with Colonel Westbrook before. I think we can trust him." after dropping Lily at summer day camp. Jennifer called Dr. Harris. "I have something important to show you at the farm," she said, keeping details vague. "It relates to Colonel Westbrook's botanical research." Harris arrived that afternoon, his scientific composure cracking visibly when he saw the garden. "This is extraordinary," he breathed, kneeling to examine plants that displayed growth patterns impossible in conventional agriculture. "How long since these were planted?" "6 weeks for most of them," Jennifer replied. "But the most dramatic growth happened overnight." She hesitated, then added, "After a visitation event." Harris's head snapped up. "You observed phenomena." Jennifer nodded. "Last night, and I have high-resolution digital documentation." She paused. "There was direct interaction with the garden, a focused beam of light." Harris stood, brushing soil from his hands with the careful movements of someone processing paradigm-shifting information. "Westbrook documented similar events, but never with modern recording technology," he said. "This could be evidence of deliberate agricultural modification by non-human intelligence." Jennifer finished for him. After examining the entire garden and collecting samples from plants that showed the most dramatic overnight changes, Harris followed Jennifer to the house. At her kitchen table, she showed him the digital recordings from the previous night, including the clear footage of the light beam focused on the garden. "This is beyond anything in Westbrook's records," Harris said, his voice hushed. "The resolution, the clarity, there's no ambiguity here. These objects are under intelligent control and demonstrating technology far beyond current human capabilities. And they're deliberately enhancing our food plants," Jennifer added. "The question is why and what should we do with this knowledge?" Harris rubbed his face, the scientist in him visibly grappling with implications beyond standard research parameters. "Westbrook believed they were preparing us," he said finally. His later journals suggested the soil modifications were a form of long-term terraforming, gradually altering our agricultural potential to be more efficient, more nutritious, more resilient. "Preparing us for what?" Jennifer asked. He was never certain. Contact, perhaps, or environmental changes they foresaw, or simply helping a species they found interesting. Harris spread his hands. "The why remains speculative, but the what is increasingly clear. They're helping improve our food supply in ways that could revolutionize agriculture globally." The conversation continued for hours, ranging from scientific analysis to philosophical implications. By the time Harris left with his samples and copies of her recordings, they had formed a partnership. Jennifer would continue documentation and field observations, while Harris would conduct laboratory analysis and connect with trusted scientific colleagues who could contribute expertise without government entanglements. "Westbrook searched for decades for someone who could continue his work," Harris said as he prepared to leave. "I believe he would be profoundly satisfied to know it was you who found his research, someone with both the scientific background to understand it and the personal courage to pursue truth, regardless of conventional boundaries." His words resonated with Jennifer long after he departed. She had come to this property desperate and defeated, seeking merely shelter for herself and Lily. Instead, she had found purpose not just in continuing Westbrook's research, but in potentially advancing human understanding of our place in a larger cosmos. That evening, Jennifer sat on the farmhouse's newly repaired porch, watching Lily play in the yard as the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. The farm that had seemed so derelict just months ago was gradually transforming the house, now structurally sound, if still aesthetically challenged. The garden almost embarrassingly productive. And most importantly, their lives infused with renewed meaning. "Mom, look," Lily called, pointing toward the woods. Fireflies. Indeed, dozens of tiny lights had begun to flicker among the trees, their synchronized patterns reminiscent in miniature of the aerial phenomena Jennifer had witnessed the night before. The parallel struck her as poetic nature on Earth had developed its own light-based communication systems long before humans evolved. "They're beautiful," Jennifer said, joining her daughter at the edge of the yard. "Did you know that fireflies flash in specific patterns to talk to each other? Different species have different patterns, like different languages." Lily watched the insects with heightened interest. Do you think the lights in the sky are talking to each other too? It's possible, Jennifer acknowledged. Colonel Westbrook thought they might even be trying to communicate with us, but in ways we don't fully understand yet. Like how they make the plants grow better instead of just saying hello, Lily suggested. Jennifer smiled at her daughter's perceptiveness. Exactly like that, actions instead of words. Later, after tucking Lily into bed in her newly painted purple bedroom, Jennifer returned to the observation loft. The night remained clear, though no unusual phenomena appeared. Instead of disappointment, she felt patience, a quality she'd had little opportunity to develop during the frantic years of single parenthood and financial struggle. This farm, with its mysterious visitors and transformed soil, operated on a timeline beyond human urgency. The phenomena Westbrook had documented occurred in patterns spanning decades, not days. Her role now was to observe, document, and learn to be a witness to something extraordinary without demanding it conform to her expectations or schedule. As summer progressed into early autumn, life at the Westbrook farm, which Jennifer had officially renamed Cooper Farm, after her maternal grandfather, developed a pleasant rhythm punctuated by moments of wonder. Their garden produced an almost embarrassing abundance, allowing Jennifer to donate substantial quantities to the local food bank under the plausible explanation of experimental growing techniques. Lily thrived in her new school. Her asthma all but disappeared in the clean country air. The unusual aspects of their life nighttime observations, interactions with Dr. Harris and the small group of scientists he had carefully assembled, became normalized for her, integrated into her understanding of the world as children so readily manage. Jennifer continued her environmental engineering consulting remotely, but increasingly focused on agricultural applications that might incorporate what they were learning from the enhanced soil. Working with Harris's team, she developed proposals for sustainable farming techniques that, while not revealing the true origin of their insights, could significantly increase food production while reducing chemical inputs. The underground facility, once stripped of its military equipment, found new purpose as a scientific laboratory. Jennifer gradually transported Westbrook's personal research materials there from their various hiding places, creating a comprehensive archive of his decades of observations, supplemented now by her own higher-resolution documentation. Visitation events occurred approximately twice monthly, usually around the new moon when the night sky was darkest. Each followed similar patterns, atmospheric disturbances, followed by formations of lights performing geometric movements, occasionally culminating in direct interaction with the property through focused beams of light or momentary hovering over specific locations. One such event in late September proved particularly significant. Jennifer had established automated monitoring equipment throughout the property, allowing more comprehensive documentation than Westbrook had managed with his limited resources. Shortly after midnight, the now familiar lights appeared, but instead of remaining distant or briefly interacting with the garden, a single orb descended directly to the observation loft where Jennifer sat for a breathtaking moment. The light hovered just outside the hay door, close enough that Jennifer could discern complex patterns within its luminous structure, what appeared to be an organized field of energy rather than a solid craft. No sound accompanied its presence, just a subtle vibration she felt rather than heard. Then, in a display she could only interpret as deliberate communication, the orb produced a series of light pulses that exactly matched the pattern of numbers Lily had idly arranged riverstones into the previous day, a simple Fibonacci sequence the child had learned in school. Jennifer's heart pounded as the implications registered. They had been watching, observing not just the property, but its inhabitants, noting details as specific as a child's mathematical play. And now they were demonstrating that observation, establishing a primitive but unmistakable communication. When Jennifer shared this experience with Dr. Harris's scientific group the following day, the response was a mixture of excitement and cautious analysis. "It's the most direct communication attempt documented," noted Dr. Eliza Wong, a physicist specializing in quantum information theory who had joined their informal research collective. The use of a mathematical sequence observed from human activity indicates not just intelligence, but specific intent to establish connection through recognized patterns. The timing may be significant as well, added Dr. Marcus Rivera, an anthropologist brought in to provide cultural context. Westbrook's records show increased activity during equinox periods across multiple years. We're just past the autumn equinox now. These observations launched intense discussion about appropriate responses. Should they attempt mathematical communications in return, create patterns that might be visible from above? The consensus eventually formed around a measured approach, continuing observation, while gradually introducing intentional patterns into the property that might be recognized from aerial perspectives. That evening, Jennifer sat with Lily on their porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues. The farm had transformed in just a few months, the house now fully repaired. The garden expanded. The barn converted into a combination standard agricultural building and sophisticated observation station. Even the physical appearance of the property had improved dramatically, with fresh paint, repaired fencing, and landscaping that subtly incorporated mathematical patterns they hoped might be recognized from above. "Mom," Lily said thoughtfully, leaning against Jennifer's shoulder, "do you think we'll ever meet them, the ones who make the lights?" Jennifer considered the question carefully. "I don't know. Sweetie, Colonel Westbrook watched for almost 30 years and never had what we'd call a meeting, but he believed they were gradually getting to know us, just as we're trying to understand them. Like making friends with a shy animal," Lily suggested, "where you have to be patient and not scary." "That's a good way to think about it," Jennifer agreed. "We're showing them we're friendly and curious, not frightened or dangerous." "I put the special rocks in a spiral today," Lily mentioned casually. "Miss Baker taught us about math patterns in nature, like snail shells and pine cones. I made one by the apple tree." Jennifer controlled her surprise at this information. Lily had independently created another mathematical pattern on the property, exactly the kind of communication attempt their scientific group had been discussing. "That's wonderful. Honey, math is a universal language, the same everywhere in the universe. It might be something they recognize." Lily nodded sleepily. "I think they're nice. They make our plants grow and don't scare the birds away. Tyler's grandpa says some people were afraid of them, but I think that's silly. They're just different. Not scary." As darkness fell and Lily went to bed, Jennifer reflected on the wisdom in her daughter's simple assessment. Fear of the unknown had driven much of humanity's history, fear that often prevented recognition of potential friendship, collaboration, and growth. Colonel Westbrook had moved beyond that fear to curiosity and documentation. Now, Jennifer and her unlikely scientific allies were taking the next step: intentional, peaceful response. Standing in her yard under the star-filled sky, Jennifer felt a profound sense of purpose that had been missing for years. The financial desperation that had driven her to purchase this abandoned farm had led not to mere survival, but to unprecedented discovery. Her environmental engineering background, once seemingly derailed by single parenthood and economic hardship, had perfectly positioned her to continue work of potentially historic significance. The land will protect the truth until someone ready to understand comes along. Westbrook had written. Jennifer now recognized she hadn't randomly stumbled upon this property, she had been drawn to it. Perhaps even selected by forces she was only beginning to comprehend. As if in confirmation of this thought, a single point of light appeared in the northern sky, not one of the usual formations. Just a solitary luminous presence, briefly pulsing, in a pattern that echoed the Fibonacci sequence Lily had created. Then it vanished, leaving the night ordinary once more. Jennifer smiled, no longer startled by such occurrences. "Message received," she said softly to the empty air. "We're just beginning to understand, but we're listening now, and we're no longer afraid." 3 days later, Jennifer received an unexpected phone call from Dr. Dawson, the Department of Defense scientist who had been present during the military's removal of equipment from the underground facility. "Ms. Cooper," her voice was crisp and professional, "I'll be in your area tomorrow and would like to stop by to check on how you're settling in. Standard follow-up procedure after a decommissioning operation." Jennifer's guard immediately went up, after months without contact. Why would the DoD suddenly be interested in a follow-up Had they somehow detected the visitation events? Or worse, had they been monitoring her interactions with Dr. Harris and his colleagues? Of course, she replied, keeping her tone casual. What time should I expect you? Around 2 p.m., if that's convenient. After ending the call, Jennifer immediately contacted Harris, who shared her concerns. This isn't standard procedure, he confirmed. In 30 years of working with properties involved in classified research, I've never heard of a follow-up months after decommissioning. Something's triggered their interest. What should I do? Nothing suspicious, Harris advised. Show her around if she asks. Answer questions honestly but minimally. Remember, the non-disclosure agreement doesn't cover anything you've discovered since they left, only the existence and purpose of the original facility. Should I hide Westbrook's materials? Definitely move anything sensitive to our lab at the research station, and I'd suggest temporarily dismantling any obvious monitoring equipment in the barn. We can't hide the garden's extraordinary productivity, but we can attribute that to good farming practices. That evening, Jennifer and Lily carefully packed Westbrook's journals, the star projector, and the data storage device into boxes. Is this because the government lady is coming? Lily asked, perceptive as always. Yes, sweetie. Some of Colonel Westbrook's research needs to stay private for now, like we talked about our secret science mission. Because they wouldn't understand, Lily asked, carefully wrapping the star projector in a soft cloth. They might understand, but not in the right way, Jennifer explained. Sometimes people are afraid of things they don't understand, and fear makes them want to control those things or hide them away. Like how Dad was afraid when I got sick, Lily said quietly. So he went away instead of helping. Jennifer hugged her daughter tightly, momentarily speechless at the child's insight. Something like that. Yes, but we're different, aren't we? We choose to learn and understand, not run away. After Lily was asleep, Jennifer drove the boxes to the research station, where Harris secured them in a specialized storage area. Then she returned home and spent hours removing the monitoring equipment from the barn loft, carefully storing the cameras, sensors, and recording devices in the underground facility, the last place Dr. Dawson would likely check, given that the military had already cleared it months earlier. The next day, promptly at 2 p.m., a black government sedan pulled into Jennifer's driveway. Dr. Dawson emerged alone, dressed in a crisp pantsuit that somehow made Jennifer, in her casual farm clothes, feel underdressed on her own property. Ms. Cooper. Dawson greeted her with a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. Thank you for accommodating this visit. Not at all, Jennifer replied, inviting her onto the porch. Would you like some iced tea? It's homemade from mint grown in our garden. That would be lovely, Dawson said. Taking a seat in one of the rocking chairs Jennifer had restored, she looked around approvingly. You've made remarkable progress with the property when we were here in spring. I wouldn't have given much for its chances of rehabilitation. It's been a lot of work, Jennifer acknowledged, pouring tea from a pitcher. But rewarding. The house had good bones, as they say. Dawson accepted the glass, taking a small sip before placing it on a side table. And how are you finding rural life? Quite a change from the city. I imagine. It's been wonderful for us. Lily's asthma has improved dramatically with the clean air, and I can manage my consulting work remotely. Dawson nodded, her gaze drifting to the abundant garden visible from the porch. Your garden appears exceptionally productive for first-year cultivation. Jennifer had prepared for this observation. The soil here is surprisingly rich, despite years of neglect. And we've been following some experimental techniques recommended by the local agricultural extension office companion, planting, natural fertilizers, that sort of thing. I see. Dawson's tone was neutral, but her intense focus on the garden suggested more than casual interest. And have you had any unusual experiences since moving here? Anything that might relate to the property's history? Jennifer chose her words carefully. Nothing related to the military facility, if that's what you're asking. The underground rooms have remained sealed as you instructed. We've had the usual challenges of country living, learning to manage well water, dealing with the occasional wildlife visitor. She smiled naturally. Lily was quite startled by her first encounter with a barn owl. Dawson nodded, but her expression remained evaluative. The reason for my visit, Ms. Cooper, is that we've detected some unusual atmospheric readings in this area over the past few months. Satellite monitoring picked up several anomalous energy signatures centered on this property. Jennifer's heart rate increased, but she kept her expression neutral. What kind of energy signatures? Similar to those Colonel Westbrook was tasked with monitoring, Dawson replied, watching Jennifer closely. The patterns suggest a potential resumption of the phenomena that made this location of interest to the Air Force originally. I see, Jennifer said, deliberately taking a sip of tea to give herself a moment. And what does that mean for us? Should we be concerned? Not concerned, necessarily, Dawson said. But the department would like to reinstall some monitoring equipment in the underground facility, purely as a precautionary measure. We wouldn't interfere with your daily life. And there it was, the real purpose of the visit. They wanted to regain control of the property's monitoring capabilities, which would effectively end Jennifer's independent research with Harris and his team. That's an unexpected request, Jennifer said, maintaining her composure. When you removed the equipment in spring, you indicated the program had been decommissioned. Circumstances change, Dawson replied smoothly. New data suggests the value of resumed monitoring. I'd need to think about this, Jennifer said. Having military personnel coming and going would be disruptive for Lily, who's just settling into her new home and school. Of course, Dawson nodded, and we'd be prepared to offer compensation for the inconvenience, a significant monthly stipend, perhaps, in addition to covering any property taxes for the duration of our involvement. The financial offer was tempting. Jennifer's consulting work provided enough for their basic needs, but there was little left for savings or emergencies. Yet accepting would mean surrendering the independence that had allowed her to continue Westbrook's most important work. That's generous, Jennifer acknowledged. May I have a few days to consider? This isn't a decision I can make on the spot. Certainly, Dawson replied, though a flicker of impatience crossed her face. We can give you until Monday. Here's my card with my direct number. She handed Jennifer a business card nearly identical to the one she'd provided months earlier. As they rose to conclude the visit, Dawson asked casually, I notice you've made considerable improvements to the barn as well. Would you mind showing me